Okay, point shoe ribbon sewing. So this is how I store my point shoes. I fold the back of the heel in, and then I fold each side over one another and wrap the satin around, and then I usually stick one inside the other like so. Also make sure she knows to always store her toe pads in a separate place than inside the shoe so they don't get yucky. I also like to initial my shoes with an R and an L, pardon the kind of gross already used shoes, and use the same shoe on the same foot all the time. Okay, so unwrapping the shoe. Oh, pardon the guest appearance. So when I sew my shoes, I fold the back of the shoe down like that, and then I mark with pen where the elastic would go. So I mark each side with pen there, and then what I do is I sew the ribbon and the elastic in that spot together. It kind of depends on the feet of the person. This is a good starting point, I think. Some people sew the elastic way back here and it kind of loops around, which is totally fine, and a lot of people do that. And then they sew the satin up here. I went through so many pairs of point shoes and had to sew them so fast that I just, for efficiency purposes, started sewing them together, and it works so fine for mine. And then, so what I would do is I pin where the marking is. I do a safety pin on the ribbon and the elastic on one side. And then I put the shoe on, I'll put the shoe on the foot and bring the other ribbon in and pull the elastic over to where it feels good and nice and snug, but not too snug. And then I safety pin the other side while it's on my foot, pin going out, so you don't poke yourself. And then once they're pinned, what I do is I'll start to sew. I usually put the pin down farther a little bit, like down here, and then I sew across the top line first and then take the pin out. I like to, oh, we have another guest appearance. Hi, Tyson. Yes, you're a good boy. I like to sew in a triangle, and I sew mine, I sew like little stitches. You can see them, they're kind of underneath this big stitch. It's gonna focus, there we go. So I do little stitches, and then I reinforce it with a few rounds of big stitches, just to kind of cover up. Also aesthetically, I like how it looks. So I do mine in a triangle like that. You'll also probably notice that I have an extra piece of elastic here on the back of my shoe. My heels are super narrow, so I have this piece of elastic because when I tie my shoes, I tie the ribbon around my ankle and then through the loop, and it keeps the shoe on the back of my heel. Totally not necessary if she doesn't have narrow heels. It's just one extra thing to sew, so I'd recommend trying without first. And then if she thinks she needs it, adding it in. But I like to sew one side at a time. I'll sew one side and then the other side, and it takes me several days, but it's less of a pain that way. And I start the sewing on the inside there, and you can see I have started on the inside with a knot, and then I end on the other side, and I burn the knots with a lighter so that they're not like loose threads hanging out. I also like to cut my ribbon. I cut a little triangle in my ribbon because I've just found that they fray less when you do that, and then I burn the ends of the ribbon as well. People also like to use clear nail polish. Either's totally fine. Well, that is all. I hope you enjoyed my little quick 5-minute point shoe sewing tutorial.